Hello everyone, in this episode of third person series I'm going to show you how to set up aiming and aim offset in Unreal Engine 5. And as you can see, this is final result of this tutorial. Alright, first I'm going to create a new input for aiming. So from edit tab I open project settings, and from input section I create a new action mapping and I name it aim. And for key binding I select right mouse button. Now I close project settings and now I open my weapon folder, and here I create a new enumeration. From blueprint section I choose enumeration and I name it aim enum. Now I open my enumeration and now I add 3 enumerators. I name first one not aiming, second pistol aiming, and the third one rifle aiming. Now I save and close this enumeration, and now I open my weapon system component, and here I create a new variable and I name it aim state. And for variable type I select enumeration that I just created. Alright, now I compile and close weapon system component. In this tutorial I'm going to use these two animation assets. This one is pistol aiming animation and this one is rifle aiming, and I put the download link of these animations in comment section. Okay, now I open my character blueprint bp underscore third person character, and here I create a new variable in type of boolean and I name it is aiming. Okay, now I compile and now I open my animation blueprint, which is in this case is this ABP mani. I inside event graph, as you can see in previous episode, I created this has rifle boolean, and now I'm going to create more variables. First I'm going to create a new variable and I name it aim type, and for variable type I select aim enum, the enumeration that I created. Alright, now I drag and drop it and get a setter of this enumeration and connect it to here, and here from weapon system component I get my aim state variable, which has this same enumeration type, aim enum type, and I connect it to here. Now from my third person character reference I drag a node and get my is aiming boolean, and now I set my aim type boolean. I create a new variable and I name it is aiming. I create a new one and I name it aiming and set type to boolean. Drag and drop, I get a setter here, connect it to here, and I set the value of this one to here. Okay, Now I need to create a new variable for my aim offset. So here again I create a variable and I name it aim offset, and I set variable type to float. Now here I drag a node and add a branch node and connect condition to this aiming boolean, and for true I get a setter of this aim offset and connect it here. And now I'm going to add some variable to this aim offset variable. Okay, first I get my character reference, and alright, I drag a node and search for get base aim rotation, and here I drag a node and search for get actor rotation, now I drag a node from here and search for delta rotator, connect them both together, and here I right click and click on split strike pin, and I drag a node from pitch value or y value and add a multiply node, and now I multiply it by -1. Now I drag a node and search for clamp float, this clamp actually adds some limit in a range for any number or value. For example, here I set minimum to -55 and maximum to 55, and I set return value to this aim offset. And also for false part, again I get a setter of this aim offset, get it here, connect it to false part, and I just simply set it to 0. Alright, now I open anim graph, and as you can see here I have added these blend poses in previous episode for holding rifle state, and now I'm going to save all of them into a cache. So here I drag a node and search for save new cache pose, and I name it default 3. This one was default 2 and this one is default 3. Now here I right click and get default 3, search for default 3. Okay, and here I need layered blend per bone node, so I get a copy of this one and connect it to base pose, and for blend pose I get my pistol aiming animation, this one, and connect it to blend pose 0, and again I get a duplicate of this one, and again I search for default 3, connect it to base pose, and here I search for rifle aiming, this one, and connect it to blend pose. Now I here right click and search for blend by aim enum, blend pose aim enum in parentheses, and Here I get default tree again, default tree cache. I connect it to default pose, and here I right click and add all of the status. Not aiming, I don't need not aiming, sorry, pistol aiming and rifle aiming, and I remove this not aiming state. Alright, now I connect this pistol blend pose to pistol aiming and this rifle to rifle aiming, and I also get my aim type variable and connect it to active enum value. Now I going to add a new modify bone for aim offset. So here I search for modify transform modify bone, connect this one to here. This node will be added automatically, and also I connect this one to here. And for rotation, I right click and click on split strike pin, and also here I select this node and search for rotation mode, and I set it on add to existing. Okay, and for rotation X, I connect my aim offset variable to this one. Alright, now I compile. I think here is still a problem. Okay, alright, I should here select a bone, I'm sorry, a bone to modify. I forgot to do that, and I faced this warning, not error. And for bone to modify, I prefer to choose this spine underscore 04. Alright, now I compile and close this animation blueprint. Now I'm going to create a widget for my crosshair, aiming crosshair. Okay, here in this folder I have this image, which is image of a crosshair, and now I'm going to create a new widget from user interface section. I create widget blueprint and I name it crosshair widget. Alright, first here I add a canvas panel. I search for canvas panel and drag and drop it here. Now I search for an image and drag and drop it on canvas panel, and here I anchor it to the center first, and then I set position X and position Y to 0. Now I set alignment X to 0.5 and also Y to 0.5, and now I set size X to 20 and also Y to 20. And in this section I search for my crosshair image, and alright, here I have this crosshair. Now I compile and close this widget. Now I open my character blueprint, BP underscore third person character. Inside event graph, I right click and search for event begin play. Okay, now I drag a node and search for, here I search for create widget. Alright, for owning player I search for get player controller, and for class I search for widget that I created, crosshair widget, and I also promote it to a variable and I name it crosshair ref. Okay. Now I'm going to make some changes inside my animation blueprint. So I closed it and now I open my ABP Mani animation blueprint, and here in my locomotion, in previous episodes I have changed this walk and run blend space to this 8-way movement. So now I'm going to bring it back to its default option, 1-way directional movement, which uses this blend space, this one. But now I'm going to make some changes inside my character blueprint. I open it up. Here I select my character movement and I search for orient rotation to movement. This one should be true, and I also search for use controller desired rotation, and this one should be false. Now I compile, and as you can see, if I run the game, now my character uses this 1-way movement. Now I open my character blueprint, and as you can see here, my event graph is too messy, so I create a new graph here. I click on this plus icon, create a new graph, and I name it aim dash shoot. And from now on I'm going to add all of my aiming and shooting functionalities in this graph. So first I right click and add my aim input, and from this section pressed I drag a node and add a branch node. Now I get my weapon system component and get my rifle equipped boolean that checks my character holding a rifle or not and connect it to the condition. And for true I get my aim state. I get setter of aim state variable, which is my aim enumeration, connect true, and if rifle is equipped I set it to rifle aiming, and for false again I add another branch node, and here I get handgun equipped boolean connected here, and again I get a duplicate of this one and set it to pistol aiming, and I should connect it to this weapon system component. Alright, now after that I set my is aiming to true. Now I get my character movement component. First I search for set orient rotation to movement. I set it to false. Now I drag a node again and search for set use controller desired rotation, and I set this one to true. Now again from my character movement I drag a node and search for set max walk speed, and I set it to 250 because I want my character to walk slower when aiming. Okay, and finally I want my crosshair to be shown in the screen, so I get my crosshair reference and drag a node and search for add to viewport. Alright, and now I do the same for pistol aiming. I get a copy of all of these nodes and connect it to pistol aiming, and here for releasing I get set aim state and set it to not aiming. By default it is not aiming, and connect it to released. After that I set is aiming boolean to false, and again I get my character movement component. First I set orient rotation to movement to true, and after that I set use controller desired rotation to false. This one should be false. And finally I again set max walk speed to 500. Set this one to 500, and finally I remove my crosshair from screen after I want it to be done after releasing this input. So I get my crosshair reference and search for remove from parent. Alright, now I want my camera to get closer to my character when my character is aiming. So here I add a timeline. I search for add timeline and I name it camera movement. I double click on my timeline, set length to 0.5. I add a new flow track, right click and add a new key. I set time to 0 and value to 0. Again I add another key and set time to 0.5 and value to 1. Okay, now I compile and I go back to my graph. I connect this one and this one to play, and this one to reverse. Okay, now here I drag a node and search for lerp vector. Alright, and I set x to 130, y to 0 and z to 40. And inside my camera movement I right click on this one and set it to auto, for example, and I can make a curve. I set it to auto. Okay, for a smoother animation I can create a curve. And finally I get my flow camera, drag a node and search for set relative location. Connect it to update and connect this return value to new location. Alright, now I compile and run the game. Okay, now if I pick up, for example, this AK and hold right mouse button, as you can see, my character goes into aiming state and I can bend down and up. Cursor is appearing and my max walk speed is decreased, and as I release this input it will go back to one-way movement, and speed is increasing. And if I hold this pistol again, I can do this aiming, but still there are some problems with my in-hand socket transforms, but you can easily fix it by changing the transforms, the in-hand socket transform. And okay, if this tutorial was useful for you, please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.